Hey guys, I hope all is well with you. It's been a while since I've been on here, about a month. So I'm happy to be back. I've got the next 3 videos planned out, so stay tuned. And hopefully it'll be on a more consistent basis now that I'm on summer break. But today I want to talk to you guys about guarding your thoughts and how much of an asset that can be and the benefits that it'll bring to you in your own life. So, a lot of what we do in our day to day lives, a lot of what we achieve and what we don't achieve is actually based on our thoughts. It's how we think about things, it's how we address obstacles, it's how we think of ourselves at the end of the day. So it's very crucial to make sure that we're as positive as we can be with ourselves in order to make it easier to move forward. So one of the first things I'd like to address with regards to that is don't complain. Complaining wreaks havoc. It's like the scorched earth approach. It'll outright destroy your confidence, your self-image, everything. So as long as you minimize complaining and just taking life day by day or taking the obstacle day by day, eventually you will persevere. It's just a matter of not setting yourself up to fail before you even start. So that's very crucial. And an example that ties into complaining that I'd like to address is, so the example is, let's say you're told to take out the trash, right? But you say, oh, well, I took it out the trash last time, somebody else should take out the trash, or I don't have to take out the trash this time. And this is the example, by the way. It's like, for example, if you're at home and mom's telling you to take the trash out. Now, the physical act of taking the trash out takes maybe a couple minutes, let's say 5 minutes tops, if you really gotta walk around the block to toss the trash out. But what we do as human beings is we sit around and we complain and we resist and we say, well, I shouldn't do it this time, somebody else should do it. So what happens is, after constantly being told to take the trash out, you say, okay, I'll do it later. Now what you've done is you've taken a simple task that takes just 5 minutes and you're going to turn it into several hours. And it's going to be several hours of you resisting and fighting back because you don't want to do it. So you put it off. Now, a couple hours later, you're told to take out the trash and you get up and you do it and you're protesting it. But when you go out and you take out the trash, it's still a couple minutes. It's just a couple minutes to take it out and come back, but the entire time you're resisting. Now, the whole point of this example is to help you realize that the whole process takes a couple minutes to address. Taking the trash out, fine. You don't want the house to stink. Take out the trash and come back. But what we do in our daily lives is we take something so small and minute and we stretch it out and we make it, if it takes several minutes to address, it takes hours. If it takes a day to address, it'll take a week, and so on and so forth. And it's all has to do with our thoughts and how we approach whatever it is that we're dealing with. So just take the trash out, address it as it comes in. Bit by bit, taking out the trash example takes 5 minutes. It might, whatever it is, if it's an assignment, if it's studying for a test, it might take a couple hours. But address it as it comes in. Don't put it off. Don't sit around and protest it and make it harder for yourself than it has to be. And the next thing is, a lot of people are pessimists. A lot of people like to root out the negatives in things, and to them they justify it as, oh, well, I'm only being rational. I'm thinking of all the bad outcomes. And although that may be true, but a lot of people don't just think about the bad outcomes, but they rely on them to actually happen instead of working towards making sure that they don't happen. So make sure that you establish a balance. That I would recommend is establish a balance between optimism and realism. So when you're optimistic, you see the better side of things. You see the positive aspects of things. But you don't only want to be optimistic, because the issue with that is you really set yourself up to be disappointed. And if you've ever met people who push out this narrative of optimism, just forget everything out, forget the pessimists and the realists, just be optimistic, oftentimes you'll find those people to be really miserable. And they're just not happy with their lot in life, simply because when you're optimistic in the world, in the real world, you tend to always be disappointed. But if you establish a balance between optimism and realism, where with regards to realism, you take the world, or you view the world for what it really is. You don't sugarcoat things. You understand that there's going to be some good days and there's going to be some bad days. So you don't really overthink it. So definitely work on establishing that balance for yourselves, just to offload a lot of the weight that we put on ourselves on a day-to-day basis. Now, the long-term effects of people who sit around and complain, it's honestly terrifying. I've interacted with people who all they do is complain, and a small, minute task turns into some ginormous task. And, it's like the snowball effect. And they make life harder for themselves than it has to be. And oftentimes you find that they don't accomplish a lot in life. And you'll find that they're depressed and they're upset with life and the world and let's say the cards they were dealt. Even though oftentimes a lot of these people were dealt phenomenal cards in life. When you complain, you age yourself mentally, and not in a good way, emotionally, sometimes even physically. When people let go and they start eating unhealthy food, you can see it in the weight they gain. So the long-term effects of just our thoughts can manifest themselves into our physical form, into our daily lives. So that's something to keep in mind. Now, I want to give you guys an insight into a mantra that I live by, and I actually coined it in, I don't want to say one of the darkest moments of, like studying for finals in my undergrad, but a mantra that I live by is, I am smart, I am valuable, I am capable. And in order for it to have its effect when it's repeated, and for you to actually genuinely believe it, is you have to say it out loud. You have to genuinely believe these things. And there's nothing wrong with propping yourself up and being positive with yourself. Don't let anybody tell you otherwise. Now, obviously in a common setting, with people, you don't want to just blurt it out, hey, I am smart, I am valuable. It's something that you do between yourself. But one thing that I found personally is, even if I were to say this mantra in my head and not verbalize it, it doesn't have the same positive effect as if I were to verbalize it. So again, I am smart, I am valuable, I am capable. And the more you repeat that out loud, your ears will hear it and you'll believe it. And it'll become something that you live by. But another thing I forgot to touch on with regards to a similar example of this is when people complain and they verbalize it, what happens is they start to believe it. So when you talk negatively to yourself after complaining, what happens is it starts out mentally, and then you verbalize it, and then you finally hear it and you believe it. And I've seen that, and I believe I've talked about this beforehand, but I've seen it in when I tutor students. They'll be working on a problem and everything is great. The first 30 minutes, 45 minutes of the session, everything's going great. They're grasping the concept. But once they work on a problem after, let's say, an hour, and they make one small mistake, the only thing you hear is them telling themselves that they're stupid, and they verbalize it. So it's not even that they think it at this point, they're verbalizing it. And the negative impact is immediate, automatically. Everything that we've done for, let's say, the last hour is undone, and every single problem is no longer a hill, it's a mountain. It's Mount Everest. So don't get in your own way. Guard your thoughts to the utmost, and even if it's your thoughts are influenced by other people and it's influenced in a negative way, distance yourself from those people. You don't want that kind of energy for yourself in your own life. And our thoughts, at the end of the day, are very powerful. They've influenced a lot of the advancements that we've made in our day and age, like this phone that I'm recording on, tripod, modern day AC, just the infrastructure of homes. All those things started out as thoughts that were put into action because they were verbalized, because people wanted to achieve these things. They wanted to build these things and move forward with life. And it also works for negative. There's a lot of people who've accomplished a lot of negative things, be it people stealing money, crimes committed, and whatnot. So make sure that you really sit down and ponder about how powerful our thoughts are and how you can utilize it to help you become a better person in your own life. Not only for yourself, but for your social group. And I'm not talking about being a hero and saving people, but it's about having a positive influence or a positive impact on those around you. Because it's like the trickle down example where you can have a positive effect on somebody, then they'll have a positive effect, and they'll have a positive effect on somebody else. So it keeps, or the domino effect. So it keeps going on. And it works just as well if it was a negative impact. So make sure that you pay attention to that. And these are just some things to make note of. It was definitely a process for me myself to wrap my head around it and really understand that it's not as easy as it seems. It's something that you're gonna have to work on your own, but it's a process. Don't expect to just be positive with your thoughts overnight, especially if you've gone a substantial amount of time being negative. It's a process. And in a later video, I'll discuss the mathematical approach to life, and you'll see in a more mathematical sense, and it's simple math, so it's not going to be that complicated, but you'll see how just even the slightest improvement in our day-to-day lives can have a huge effect later on. With that being said, thank you for your time, and keep asking yourselves this one simple question. What are you doing today that'll make the world a better place tomorrow? Have a good day.